That story about the lake gets me in the kayaking mood. I got a kayak for Christmas and I've been eager to use it. Well, it's almost kayaking season. Let's go. Oh, it's good to be out on the water. I love coming out and I'm just enjoying the quiet. I like the evenings, the mornings the best, but even in the middle of the day, it can be gorgeous. You get to see the wildlife. Look, a heron. Turtles. A seal. Boating for the disciples wasn't about recreation. That's how they got someplace. It was their L train, their Metroids. It kept them from having to walk all the way around. They would get on a boat and go across. It's also their livelihood. Several of them were fishermen, at least before they met Jesus, so they knew their way around a boat. But for Jesus, it seems to have been a little bit about the rest. A few weeks before, he and the disciples had gotten in a boat to go someplace, and he fell almost immediately asleep. I imagine him rocked to sleep by the waves and sung to sleep by the wind. This time, though, he doesn't get in the boat with the disciples. Did you notice that? He has the disciples get in the boat, and then he goes off up onto the mountain to pray. I bet he needed a break from them. Are there people you'd like to put in a boat? Your boss, maybe. Maybe your spouse, your kids, your parents. Yep, you know what I'm talking about. Well, Jesus needed a break from the disciples. I bet the disciples needed a break from him. Yeah, they'd just seen him feed over 5,000 people, well, 5,000 men plus women and children, so 10, 15,000 people with bread and fish. They probably wanted to talk about it. Plus, John, Jesus' cousin, had been murdered. So they may have needed to do some rehashing without Jesus around and were just as glad that he was away. Yeah, they probably needed a break. Wow. This lake's a lot bigger than I thought, and a little rougher too. It got rough for the disciples. It got rough on that Sea of Galilee. They battled the waves all night long. Oh, wave! Oh. All night. They must have been exhausted. And they probably wondered where Jesus was. Why wasn't he here now to stop the storm, right? He had done that before. That time he fell asleep, a huge storm kicked up. And they were so afraid, and they woke him up, and they said, "Don't you know that we're going to die? Don't you care?" And he raised his hand, and he stopped the wind and the waves. But he wasn't around this time to stop the wind and the waves. Oh, I bet they were mad. I know what that's like. When I'm going through a hard time, I want Jesus to fix it. I want him to come and fix it. If it's a hard time with a friend, I want him to fix my friend. And if it's a hard time with a a family member, someone's sick, I want him to cure them. If it's a hard time in our national political scene, I want him to fix that too. And, sometimes he does. Sometimes he stills the storm. Sometimes I find a way through a difficult problem at the church. Or my friend and I make up. Or the person I'm worried about gets healed. And sometimes he stills the storm inside me too. And I don't feel afraid anymore. I have courage. I feel at peace. But in this case, Jesus didn't come still the storm. Wave! But they see someone walking towards them. They think maybe it's a ghost and they get even more afraid. Was this the end? And then they realize that it might be Jesus. And so Peter says, Lord, if it's you, tell me to come to you. He just invites him to get out of the boat. And Peter walks in the middle of the storm. Jesus frees him from fear, not by silencing the waves and the wind, but by helping him walk into the thick of it. And then Peter takes his eyes off Jesus and he starts to sink like a rock. And Jesus reaches down and grabs him up. Jesus didn't need him to be perfect. He didn't need him to be unafraid. He just needed him to take that step. Sometimes Jesus frees us from fear by stilling the storm. And sometimes Jesus frees us from fear by inviting us, it's cold, to get out of the boat and walk amongst the waves. See you at church. Oh, that was fun. So where's Jesus inviting you to get out of the boat, even if you are afraid?